Hey, church family. Thanks for joining me today. And I always appreciate my church family. And this is a unique interaction. I'm going to share with you something that I probably haven't shared before. It's kind of more of a big picture question. And here's the question. And I'm taking this from Great Controversy, John Wesley's chapter. One more thought we want to pull from this chapter. And the question is this: why do third and fourth generation believers struggle to have the fire and sacrificial spirit that the first and second generation had? I mean, you see this in Adventism. We're not as excited in a fire as the first generation was. You see this in John Wesley's day. The Protestants in his day were spiritually dead. I mean, they knew that they didn't have to have, they didn't wrestle with Catholic ritual and mysticism, but they had taken the truths of their grandparents, that they were saved by grace and that they were the elect, and they used it as an excuse to be spiritually dead and not live a sanctified life. And so you see this over and over again. I mean, even the first generation Christian church was on fire and spread the gospel to all the world, and then 300 years later they're compromising with the pagans in the Catholic Church. And you see this with Joshua, when the first generation with Joshua gets out of the desert and in the promised land, and they're faithful to God, but it just disintegrates after a while. And why is this? And here's why I think it is. And please write me and tell me what you think of this. I think the issue is that the third and fourth generation may know the answers, but they don't know the intensity of the problem that the answers are answering. How's that for a statement? In other words, a movement boom, it just it erupts and it gets traction among its people, in a country or whatever, because it's giving satisfying spiritual answers to a difficult spiritual problem. And for example, Martin Luther, nobody wants to go to hell. Nobody wants to burn in purgatory while their sins are purified and they get to go to heaven. And how do you know if you're ready, you're going to go to heaven? Well, you got to work your way. You got to do the sacraments. You got to say by your indulgences. You got to confess to the priest, and you got to climb the steps to Pilate's staircase like Peter, and Jesus did, and you got to do all these sacraments. And it was not satisfying. So Martin Luther comes along and he serves this beautiful truth of acceptance of Jesus. And I'm telling you, people felt the fear of hell. And so the truth of grace, by salvation by grace, was so precious to them that those who accepted it, they were willing to sacrifice. They were willing to be martyrs. They were willing to go to the ends of the earth to share it. They were willing to brave the ire of the church. Wow. But then, 200 years later, when that was accepted, and that problem was no longer a problem of hell. You're saved by grace. You're the elect. Now you have John Wesley's day, and there's spiritual deadness. And, Adventism, William Miller taught that Jesus was coming in 1844, and people were really disappointed when Jesus didn't come. And they looked to the Bible and they found that the sanctuary had an understanding, a message for them, that there was a further work God had to do, and there was a third angel's message that needed to be proclaimed to the world. And people realized that America wasn't the 1,000 years of peace and prosperity, the promised millennium, and that they wanted heaven to come, and that this world was no good, and they wanted a better land. And especially in World War I and World War II, when people realized that this world was falling apart, Adventism was really a powerful message. How do we organize society as all these immigrants are moving into America? And we have these factories and these corporations, and how do we organize in Ministry of Healing and Loma Linda and a faith? It was a powerful answer to the issues of the day. And now, generations later, we don't feel the intensity of the problems. And we question sometimes if the solutions they're not as satisfying to us because we don't experience the intensity of the problem. We don't know the joy of relief because we don't know the intensity of the difficulty. And so what's the answer? I think the answer to this is present truth. Present truth. So, Martin Luther discovered present truth and it was very powerful. And John Wesley, present truth. Hey, sanctification matters. You got to have methods. Better ask those questions in your group. Have you been pure? Have you been honest? Have you been faithful? Have you studied the Word of God? Have you witnessed? There's methods. Sanctification is an issue. And then we have, Adventism, like present truth. That doesn't mean we negate the older truth. It's complementary. But there's a danger that we in our generation, especially the conservative among us who value the past and the structure it brings, it's easy for us to act like all the significant solutions have been offered and we cling to that. And I'm not saying we don't cling to that, but I'm saying that we do ask the question, what is the message for our contemporaries today? And if we can go back to the Bible and pull from it the truths that are inherent within, that are hidden within, just like Wesley and Martin and James White and Ellen White had to do, if we can do that and articulate it in a way that our contemporaries find meets and answers a spiritual problem, then I think we'll see the Spirit of God moving again. And I think there'll be that excitement, that energy, and that power among us. And you can't negate that. One of the stories in 1844 was, Joseph Bates was preaching, and it was dry. Everybody had heard it. It was kind of boring, but it was the same old. He's preaching, and suddenly Samuel Snow rides in with his horse, and he goes, "I have truth. I have news." And Bates says, well, he steps down from the pulpit and says, "Come on up." And Samuel Snow gets up there and he starts sharing about 1844 or October 22 and the 7th day of the 10th month of the 7th day. And it's just revolutionizes the movement. And it goes on. So there's something about, like, where is the Spirit leading? And where is the truth, the present truth? And not that we want to be willy-nilly and follow anything, but I think it's a really good question. And so to me, the next question to ask is, what are the difficult spiritual problems that our contemporaries are wrestling with today? And maybe you can think of more, but here's 2 or 3 that I can think of. Number one, I think people are in spiritual purgatory. They don't believe in heaven. They don't believe in God, but they long for it. And so they're caught. Like, they don't wrestle with hell like Martin Luther and the people in their day did. They just wrestle if there's any deeper, significant, realistic meaning to life, meaning to life beyond materialism. And they hope and long and hope that there's a God, but they can't rationally wrap their minds around it without doubt. I think that's a real issue. I think if someone could articulate a way through that, I think it would be incredibly exciting and reviving for God's church. I think another issue that people really wrestle with is deep community. I think in this world where, number one, we don't believe in truth. The world doesn't believe in truth. And that's a real problem, because if every truth is equivalent, then my crummy version of the spaghetti God is just as valid as your 2,000-year creed of Christianity. And that's just absolutely absurd. But people don't have the philosophical weapons to battle that. And so it's a difficult argument to unravel for many people. Why are there some truths that can claim to be more valid than others? Like, people really struggle with that in today's society. And because they do that, because they struggle with truth, everybody's on a different plate, a different plain, and everybody's so individualized in what they believe that they struggle to find community in believing the same thing. And even as us Seventh-day Adventists, like I don't think our kids have the same Adventist cultural nostalgia that maybe those of us in our 40s and 50s have and older. Things like we can say things like, hey, is your angel going to leave you at the theater door? And we know what that means. Or, hey, popcorn and fruit on Saturday night. GC, I mean, all these things, these little things that bond us, that I think our young people are the cultures, they're not as they don't have as much a collective experience because we're so individualized. So again, I think that deep community is a struggle for the world. And, how do we have community that allows individuality to flourish and yet people have deep community? I think a lot of people look at churches and say, yeah, you guys, you only see each other one day a week. You don't really work through any problems. You're not depending on each other like the Bible believers did. And there's a lot of expectation, a lot of groupthink, a lot of conformity. And I think whoever can solve that problem and articulate it well, pulling from the Bible truths, present truth that complements past truth, and can fashion it in a way like Wesley and Martin Luther did that the people catch on. I think that's going to be exciting times. Who will do that? I don't know. Maybe you have other ideas. Email them to me, send them to me. I'm curious because I think that in addition to Laodiceanism and just the struggle with surrender to God, I think the issue that we have as a church is that we need to rethink how do we minister to the current relevant problems of today and not just offer solutions to questions people aren't asking anymore. And that's, I don't know, that's so much an inspiring devotional thought. Hey, God loves you. But I think it's more of a deep existential question that if we could answer, I think would be spiritually rejuvenating for all of us. God bless you. Have a great day. And Lord be with you.